Okay, here we are again. So this is the Jonsbo cooler. I pulled it off. Here's the 5600X, and I'm going to swap that out for this 5800X3D. Give that a try. Okay, so this is what's in the box. It has kind of warranty information, this warning, and then the actual chip itself here. You can take a look here. This is the 5800X3D. What's funny about this box is that it's just a lot of air. Really should have just minimized the packaging and just gave you the chip. So there's no cooler that comes with this. Alright, so this is the 5800X3D. So I want to give this a try. Finally, so we have the 5800X3D, 8 cores, and this is the 5003 BIOS. So updated the BIOS, it recognizes the chip, and I am good to go, I think. So this is the, I guess, aggregate of everything that I've done. So here are the coolers, the Jonsbo and the Noctua. And then I ran Firestrike and the CPU profile, depending on the chips. This is the 3900 XT, 5600 XT, and the 580 X3D. The thing to note here is this 95-degree TJMax. The 5800 X3D, I think there's some sort of requirement where because of the stacked, 3D stacked, and more, I guess the chip runs more hot, that, and most likely it can damage that cache. So I think they lowered the TJMax on this CPU. So that's a concerning factor, because if you look at the tests with the cooler, it's running pretty close, in which case, for example, if this test were to run a little bit warmer, it would suddenly drop and kind of throttle the chip pretty hard until it recovered. None of the chips kind of throttled in any sort of way like that, so the cooler seemed to be doing their job. What I did notice is that this Jonsbo cooler on this 5800 X3D, it started to really wail and started to get very noisy. There is also one anomaly, I guess, in all of this testing. Normally you see a pattern where Firestrike would run and then the CPU profile was warmer because you're focusing on the CPU. Same type of pattern every single other place, but for some odd reason, the Jonsbo and the 5800 X3D, could be just because of the way, I don't know, maybe something was first set up, who knows. It actually ran a bit hotter, and then, and this was kind of during this Firestrike, which is kind of your gaming emulation, or kind of a gaming scenario benchmarking. So that kind of concerns me, where this could end up, if you're gaming very intensively, it may actually trigger the TJMax, and next thing you know, things will throttle pretty hard. My feeling is that having 12 cores, 8 cores, and this 105 watt TDP, it's actually probably not a good thing for a small form factor where everything's going to be closed in and such. If you're doing CPU intensive processes, it looks like you're starting to really get hot. You hit this 85 degree range, and for me that's kind of like degrading the chip over time. Not a good scenario. So the idea would be 3900 XT, 5800 X3D. You probably want to put in a bigger case, have a bigger cooler, and really bring the temperatures down. Try to be maybe in the 70 range, I guess, 60 range if you can. Now, the 5600X, it's only 6 cores. Interestingly, this I mean, you can tell that it's definitely scoring lower than um, these other two CPUs. But when actually going through and playing games, it kind of keeps very close to like even the 6800, the 5800 X3D. And then same thing with the 3900 XT. The FPS for like one of the game tests I just took the first one, you can kind of see that um, definitely 6 cores you're most likely going to in a game, and if you're using like DirectX 11 or maybe even 12, at most you might use 2 cores, 4 threads, and um, maybe some others, games will require a bit more, but most scenarios you'll see kind of that two cores being really heavily used, maybe 4 cores, right? And in that scenario, this 6 cores on the 5600X it seems to be enough to get by. The feeling is that it's actually keeping much cooler as well because of the fact that you're not running as many cores. Um, I have a feeling that this also would be a really good daily driver type of a scenario. Um, you could use this for like everyday type of things, which is kind of the scenario that I would end up using this machine for. And then I would probably do some gaming, but I probably wouldn't be using my. I wouldn't do any sort of gaming with like really large games that require heavy graphics processing. So this probably what I'm really wanting to try on this machine is be maybe play like Hades or something a little bit more speedy, less graphic intensive, and then like a controller game. So I have this feeling like I am going to probably go with the 5600X. Um, there across the board too, you can see that the Jonsbo does seem to keep things cooler than the Noctua, but not by much. And reality is with the Jonsbo, I think without the Noctua fan, um, and its stock fan would actually cool a lot more, but it's just too noisy. So I think I'm going to probably go towards the 5600X and then put this Noctua NHL12 in it instead. It looks like it performs pretty well. FPS, it's not too bad. Scores are not too terrible as well. And I have this feeling like this is probably good for like an everyday type of driver again. Um, Plus the aesthetics of that fan, I have the sense that I may end up playing with this case a bit, but I do like open cases, and even though there's this sandwich form factor for this case, I may end up trying to open it up and see what else I can throw into it. Maybe even a larger cooler just for the fun of it. Since the socket clearance, I could actually put a larger heatsink. It'd just be spilling out of the box. So maybe I might do something like that just for fun, just to see what I can do with a box like this. And then maybe even leave the 5800 X3D. The other curiosities I have now is how would a 6-core 3D chip perform? And I kind of really want to see that now and see if my sense would be it'd be warmer, but it wouldn't be getting close to that 90 degrees. Um, in which case that would probably be ideal, and the gaming performance would probably be really good, given that again you're probably looking at like 2 to 4 cores that you would end up, or maybe even just 2 cores that you would end up using, and that would be really great for gaming and such. Simple games, not really heavy games, but maybe with the 3D on a 5600X 3D, that would be nice. So I might actually go over to my micro center and see if I can actually pick up one of these. I believe it's only a micro center special. The other thing I'd like to do is maybe do a 5950X and on this machine, even though it would be running very hot, because it just would have 16 cores. I do want to have a little bit of a setup and see if I can actually make this machine do something like that, open up the case, give it fresh air, and then be able to put more performance through it, and then have something where I swap out the memory or the memory, the RAM, and then put in that other 64 gig low profile RAM that I bought. It's not as speedy, but the sense would be it would be great for maybe some sort of other kinds of processing. Who knows what? More CPU intensive types of things that I work on. So, anyways, I think right now what I'm going to do is go with this Noctua L12 and the 5600X. These are the results for the 5800X3D with the Jonsbo cooler. Firestrike, oddly, it got up to 82.25 degrees Celsius. For some reason, the Noctua did better and kept it cooler. The score was definitely higher because of this, but I have a feeling that this is some sort of weirdness going on here, and this is not really the norm. May have to run this test again to see, but either way, I'm just kind of taking the score and getting a ballpark of what these coolers can do. This follows the same trend though, regardless, where when you do the CPU test, it's definitely runs, the Noctua cooler runs warmer than the Jonsbo. So there's kind of a mix of results here with the benchmark. Kind of not sure exactly what to think about this score here, but maybe later I'll kind of dig into this a little bit more. So this is the Firestrike Extreme benchmark for the 5800X3D. Definitely a higher score than the other two processors. Max CPU temperature, it's 82.25 Celsius. GPU max is out at 71.99 Celsius. And it looks like the frequency, the max frequency, you get up to about 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 gigahertz at various peaks, but it looks like it drops down pretty consistently. Not quite maxing out all the time. Let's take a look at the other, I ran the other benchmark, the CPU profile. Okay, so max threads. Since this is 8 cores, you can get up to 16 threads. Let's see here. You can see here that it's the 5800 X3D. Max temperature 79.5. 80, like 80.13. 80.13 is about where it maxes out. And it looks like you keep bouncing up and down from 4.5 gigahertz. It keeps bouncing up and down from there. I'm guessing that's the max. It's staying up pretty consistently high though, at around 4.5, which is pretty impressive. We do compare results here. So one thing with this is that curious is, so this is the two tests. Let me do Firestrike. So this was the 5600X, and this was using the Jonsbo, and this is the 5800X3D, and this is using the Jonsbo cooler. So let me go ahead and compare these real quick. Yeah, 5600X. So what's pretty clear here is that just like the 3900XT, the 5800X3D has picked up on the physics score for some reason. We saw how it was actually weaker on the physics score for the 5600X. So my guess would be that this score probably helps with a lot of gaming and such, the physics in a game. Let me see the CPU performance. Okay, so this is the 5600X, 5800X3D, and both using the Jonsbo cooler. Yeah, and you can see that the 6 cores obviously couldn't score as high on anything that was greater than 12 threads. The 5800X3D, since it has 8 cores, it can actually get up to the 16 threads. So you can see that the performance is significantly better. Max thread, definitely significantly better. Even here, the eight threads. My feeling though, yeah, you can see here, the 6 cores, it definitely edges out the 5800X3D. Now, the X3D is supposed to help with gaming performance. My feeling would be if you were to take the 5800X and maybe focus it to 4 threads, 2 threads and 1 thread, not so many threads, you could actually make it run cooler and overclock and maybe beat out the 5600X. But the 5600X is holding its own pretty well. So most games usually run probably like 2 cores, 4 threads. This right here is kind of a determining factor of whether or not it'd be good for gaming and probably for a small form factor. But on the other side, you saw the physics score. It seems like the 5800X3D did have some sort of advantage there. So I'm guessing certain kinds of games you probably want the 5800X3D. Let me swap out Noctua cooler, do a comparison between the Jonsbo and the Noctua and the 5800X3D and see how this all looks. Okay, here we are again. Remove the Jonsbo cooler, or Jonsbo. And again, here's my 5800X 3D chip. Cleaned it off. Ready to put that back on and take a look and see how this CPU does with this cooler. So this is the Noctua cooler. Fire Strike Extreme score 12,685. Again, this is using the 5800X3D. And max temperature, it's about 80.88 for the CPU. And then for the GPU, 69.93. And it looks like we bounce up and down from 4.5 down to about like 4.4 gigahertz. Yeah, but it seems to be constantly dropping down, only peaks a little bit and boosts a little bit. We load the CPU benchmark. All right, so this is the score. max threads 7353. Like max temperature gets to 0.74, 8588 be the highest. And again, CPU keeps bouncing up and down, boosting about 4.5 gigahertz. Let me do a comparison. So for Firestrike, so this one was the Jonsbo cooler. This is the new result. This is the Noctua. Compare these side by side. Interestingly, the physics score drops. And again, these are very close, but it looks like the Noctua cooler is doing a bit better, which is interesting for the 5800 X3D. Let me compare the CPU scores or the CPU benchmarks. Okay, so this is the Jonsbo, this is the Noctua. Compare. Yeah, and the Jonsbo, it's pretty clear that it's beating out the Noctua cooler. Like, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. So it looks like the Jonsbo cooler with the Noctua fan is probably the way I want to go. Now, if I want to keep the 5800 X3D versus the 5600X, I think that kind of comes down to the purpose of this machine. The machine doesn't have a huge GPU, so I'll have to think through this a little bit.